All right, let me go back to you guys now. Okay, the live classes with Amber are great, apparently, which is really good. The data is not synchronized. I'm not sure what you mean there, Ripan. If you can send an email through, that would be helpful. If you send an email to hello@e2language.com, that would be good. Test ready is rather slow. The packages are not clear. Yes, we need to fix some stuff up. Yeah. Okay. Okay, fantastic. Cool. Thanks for your feedback. I appreciate that enormously. All right, we're going to get started. What I'm going to do is this. We're going to look at some test prep grammar. So hopefully that works. Cool. Hello, everybody. My name is Jay. I'm one of the expert English teachers here at E2 School. I hope you're well. I hope you're having a good day. And I hope that E2 School is of interest to you. And more than that, I hope E2 School is actually helping you to learn English. That's why we built this thing. So we have a website, as you probably know, called E2 Language, which looks at test preparation for Ielts and PTE and OET and TOEFL. And those tests are rather difficult. And a lot of people need additional help. And that's why we built E2 School. So E2 School is a website that focuses on grammar, pronunciation, reading skills, listening strategies, stuff like that. So you may have seen a number of courses in E2 School so far. We have Words and Rules Review, the grammar review course. We have Speaking Lab, which is for your pronunciation. And we have a course called Test Ready. Now, we haven't finished yet. We're still working on E2 School. We have a number of other courses coming, including General English, which will link to the key test, the Cambridge key test, and Cambridge preliminary test. Plus, we're going to make everything much better. So keep coming back because you're going to see improvements on the website. Cool. Okay, today we're going to look at some grammar for test prep. It's going to be pretty basic grammar, so around the sort of beginner level, maybe intermediate level. We're going to focus on a specific thing. So in today's class, you will learn, and let me disappear while I do this, we're going to focus on a particular type of verb called an imperative. Maybe you've heard this term before. That's the last time we'll use it, because we will talk about instruction verbs, how to give instructions, which is obviously very important. And this will happen well, maybe not in your tests for Ielts and PTEs, but certainly for OET, if you're taking this as a nurse or doctor, giving instructions is obviously critical. So let's focus on giving instructions. First, let's look at the rule. So we use instructions to tell someone what to do, right? So here's our old friend Joe. And let's say Joe needs to visit the dentist, although his teeth look wonderfully white and perfect. So if I want to tell Joe to do that, to visit the dentist using go, I will say go to the dentist, right? So this is one example, and we're going to pull this apart and look at it very closely because there is some simplicity. This is very simple. But if you want to make it polite, there's something you need to learn. If you want to make it negative, as in do not, there's something to learn there as well. So let's look at the form first of how to give instructions. What we want to do is we actually do not start with a subject. So of course, in English, typically what you do is you start with I or you or we or they or she or he, for example, as the subject pronoun. But in fact, when you're giving instructions, you do not use the subject pronoun at all. What you do use is just the base form of the verb, like do or go or get or make or eat or whatever it is, just the most basic form of the verb. And then, of course, well, with most of these verbs, you need an object like do your work or go home, for example. So it's just verb and object. Pass the salt or send the email are a couple of examples. Okay, then we have negative, right? And of course, when we're talking about negative, we're talking about the word not. That's what negative means. So if you hear your teacher talking about, positive or affirmative sentences and negative sentences, what your teacher is talking about is a sentence with the word not in it. Remember, there are 3 types of sentences. Positive sentences, which is just pass the salt, for example. Then you have the negative sentence, which is do not pass the salt, for example. And then, of course, you have question sentence types as well. So they're the 3 sentence types. So when you're giving instructions, you start with do not, or in spoken English, don't. Then you have the base form of the verb, like go or use. And then I'm sure you can guess what's next. You have the object. So, for example, do not go upstairs, or don't use this pen, or do not cross the road, or don't eat the cake. Now, just quickly, what's the difference between do not and don't? Often we hear, and I just said it before, which is actually not completely true, that this is the difference between spoken and written English, but it's not really. Because if I'm writing an email, even a very formal email to somebody in authority or somebody whom I respect, I often use the form don't. So really what I've found with do not is actually, it's not about formal or informal, it's about emphasis. So if you really want to emphasize do not do something, you don't say don't, you say do not, and it just has a stronger emphasis, okay? So that's probably the best way to think about the difference between do not and don't. All right, just note here that imperatives or instructions are very direct. They can sound impolite if not used by a person in a position of authority, like a teacher. For a teacher to use an imperative or an instruction like that, it is fine. But if you want to make imperatives sound more polite, you add the word please, like please sit down. The teacher can say sit down, that's fine. But if you want to be polite, you add the word please. You can add the word please at the beginning or at the end of the sentence there. That is fine. So when do we use instruction verbs? Well, we use them in class to give instructions like open your books or read the question, for example, you're in the classroom. We use instruction verbs in recipes like add the milk or mix the batter. We use instruction verbs in manuals like attach the piece or switch it on. So if you've ever been to IKEA and you've set up one of their cupboards or something, you'll see lots of these instruction verbs. And also when we give directions like cross the road or turn right. So if you are taking the Ielts test, for example, and if you're doing the map completion task, you're going to hear a lot of these imperatives or instruction verbs. So that's one place in these tests that you will see them. Let's do a little reading activity now. I'm going to give you 45 seconds to find which of these sentences are instructions. You have 45 seconds. Pop your answers into the chat. A, B, C, D, E, or F. Cool. All right. Well done. Nice. I'm seeing some good answers coming through. Keep them coming. Hello to our viewers on YouTube Live, by the way. Cool. All right. That's fine. That's fine. Good. All right. So which of these sentences are instructional sentences? Let's have a look at the answers. So first one, bake a cake. Yes, that's an instruction. It starts with a verb, right? Sylvia likes baking. No, this is not an instruction. Write a shopping list. Yes, it starts with a verb and there's no subject, right? We need eggs. No. Don't forget the flour. Yes. Why? Well, it starts with a verb like forget. However, it's what do we call that type of sentence? What's E? Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it a question sentence? It's a negative sentence because we have the word not in it, but it's still an instruction. And F, baking is fun, is not an instruction. So you can see the answers there are A, C, and E. Hopefully you saw those instructions in those sentences. Let's do a little writing activity now. Now that you know what's going on, this is going to be a little bit tricky. Let me talk you through what you need to do. Okay, let me use my little mouse cursor here. So we have a recipe, and the recipe has instruction verbs in it, except we've taken out all of the instruction verbs and we've put them here. They are add, break, cook, melt, pour, serve, stir, and whisk. Okay. What I want you to do is to decide which instruction verb should go here. What do you do to eggs, for example? And actually, you have to do it again here with B. What do you do with the milk? What's the correct verb to go with the milk? I'll give you 90 seconds. See if you can, in the chat, I want you to write A and then the verb, for example, and B and then the verb. See how you go. Nice. Jay Patel's off to a good start. So is Kanika. Nice work. So Sumaira, we're looking at instruction verbs. I think I'll give you a little bit more time. Whoa. Okay, how do I turn that off? That nearly gave me a heart attack there. Okay, I'll give you a little bit more time to find the answers. I'll give you another 20 seconds or so. It's not that easy. So what we're doing, Sumaira, who has just joined us, is we're deciding which of these instruction verbs fit the gap correctly. Another 10 seconds. Okay, maybe that's enough time. Cool, cool, cool. All right, let's go through and have a look at the answers here. So we have a little bit of a hint here, which is number one used, you can see the method there. You can see one, A, B, C, used add, break, and whisk, right? Number two, D and E used the verbs melt and pour, and three, F, G, and H used cook, serve, and stir. So hopefully for number one, you got break the eggs open and tip into a bowl. Actually, let me give you a little quiz. Can you see in that sentence, that first sentence there, break the eggs open and tip into a bowl, can you see the other instruction verb? What's the other instruction verb in this sentence here? Break the eggs open and tip into a bowl. Which is the other instruction verb? Can you see it? Nice, good. Tip, well done. Cool, let's look at B. So what do you do to the eggs then? Well, you whisk the eggs with a fork would be the hint there. You whisk with a fork. Maybe you don't know that verb, but that's an interesting one. And then what do you do to milk? Because it's a liquid. Well, actually, there you go. You can add the milk, or maybe you could pour the milk, but add works there. And you have to add the salt and pepper. Obviously, I haven't looked at the answers here. Number two, D, what do you do to the butter in a hot pan? You probably melt the butter in a hot pan. What do you do to the mixture into the pan? Well, there you go. You've got some sort of liquid there. You pour the mixture into the pan. F, you stir occasionally with a wooden spoon to break the eggs up. And then G, you cook until just set. And H, the final one, you serve hot. So break, whisk, add, melt, pour, stir, cook, and serve. They are the instructional verbs. How did you go, by the way? How many are there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What is your score out of 8? What did you get out of 8? Just for my interest. How many correct? Cool. Nice work. 8, 6, 1. That's okay. 8, 5, 4, 3, 4. That's right. 7. Well done. That's okay, Sohail. That's right. That's why you're here. You're here to learn. So that's good. That's fine. That's interesting. Okay, cool. Let's do another little reading task now. This one will be a little bit more complicated. So we've got 2 characters, and you probably know our family, the Smith family. If you've been practicing your grammar on E2 School, you will meet all of the Smith characters, including Joe and Sylvia and Summer and Willie and the dog and the cat and Grandpa George. What you're going to do now is read a conversation between Joe and Summer. What's happening is Joe is telling Summer where to go during a driving lesson. Okay, so they're in the car together. They're driving. Summer is learning how to drive, and Joe is the anxious parent. So what you're going to do here is you can see the conversation. Joe is talking to Summer, and he's giving lots of instructions, right? What you need to do is read the conversation, fill in the instruction verbs. Now, if you see an X, like X cross and X start, for example, that means do not. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes. And what you need to do, like before, is to decide which instruction verb will go into this position A and position B, and whether or not you need to, for these ones with the X, sorry, you'll need to add the do not or the don't. So I'll give you 2 minutes. This might be a challenge. I might have to give you more time. Let's see how you're going. Let me check the answers here. Okay, good. Nice work. Everyone's putting their answers into the chat. That's cool. Whoa, I hate that sound. Let me go back. I'm going to give you 2 more minutes because this is quite challenging. Let me sorry, I'm going to turn down my volume so I don't have a heart attack. Okay, let me check the chat to see how you're going. You're going well. Nice, nice work. Alo Wakemi and May and Kanika. Good, nice. Artie, well done. Good, Hannah, nice. You did them all at once, that's fine. Cool, 20 seconds left. See if you can get to J. How are you going on YouTube Live, by the way? I can see Sahishnu and Dev Yadav is doing really well. And Parul. Cool. All right, that's time up. That's probably enough time. Let's have a look at the answers. Let's go through the answers. So hopefully you got get into the car. What you're going to find actually with these instructions is that we often have a preposition after it. Not all the time, but we have these sort of phrasal verbs happening here. Get into. I'll show you a few more as we keep going. Check your seat and mirrors are in the right position. Here we have turn on the engine. And again, we have another what's called a phrasal verb, which is one of these basic verbs plus a preposition. Okay, actually it doesn't need to be basic, it can be any verb, but turn on, get into. So that's interesting. What about D? Don't or do not start moving yet. Do you remember what type of verb that is? Is it positive? Is it negative? Or is it a question? Of course, it's a negative because it has the word not in it. Before you go, look in the mirror to see if it's safe. Next, signal with your lights. Finally, E, press down on the accelerator while you lift your other foot up and off the clutch. Great. Now pull out slowly onto the road. Well done. F, drive past the shop, then turn right. Go along the road till the next junction. In fact, there's more instruction verbs in there. G, do not cross the junction. Instead, or you could write don't cross the junction, that's fine. Instead, turn left and go under the bridge. After that, go around the roundabout and take the road on the right. H, keep going. Finally, turn into the car park and park the car. Great, we made it. Summer says, you directed me to a car park? Joe says, no, silly, we have to walk across the road and then we're there. How many are there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What's your score out of 10? Just for my interest. What did you get out of 10? Did you get all of them? 5, 7, 5, 10. Nice work there, Jane. 9, that's pretty good. Well done. Nadia, 10. Great work. Ali, 1. That's okay. Here to practice. Samira, whoop, I won't read out your names. 5, 8, 6. Cool. That's right. It's good. Means this lesson's landing in the ballpark. That's nice. It's probably quite relevant to a lot of you. Okay, that was pretty difficult, to be honest. That was pretty hard. It required a lot of thinking. Now, if you take the PTE test, I don't know if you're taking the PTE test, but there is a task in the PTE called reading fill in the blanks. And that is pretty much this. It requires you to choose a word from the little table below and to fill in gaps. So if you are taking the PTE, this is very good practice. I'm not sure if they have instruction verbs, but perhaps they do. Okay, let's move on. Just a little note. We often use sequence words when giving instructions. We use them to show the order in which something should be done. Okay, first, second, third, next, etc. We usually use sequence words in this order. First, next, then, after that, finally. Okay? So, first, open your book, then read the passage. You can see both the sequence words, first and then, and you can also see the instruction verb, open, read. Okay? Finally, answer the questions. So you might see these, by the way, just before I move on, you will use sequence words in Ielts writing task 1 if you get one of those diagrams where you have to describe a process. Like, you might see something like how paper is made from cutting down trees. And we'll have like a first do this, first, next they do this, subsequently they do that, after that, blah, 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 finally, blah. So these sequence words are important for Ielts academic writing task 1, but also for other uses as well, of course. Let's do a little reading task here. This is the same conversation as we saw before. What I want you to do is just find the sequence words and write them into the chat box. How many can you find? Good, nice. Off to a good start. Flying, perhaps. How are you going on YouTube Live? Rue981 and Dev. And it looks like, is it Russian? Am I seeing? I can't read that alphabet, unfortunately. So this time, Olawakemi, we're looking at the sequence words, not the instruction words. Nice work, May. Good work. Cool. All right, let's see how many you can spot here. How many did you get? So hopefully you saw the word first, because that's often first. It's a nice sequencing word. Next, finally, then, after that, we have a second finally, because we have sort of two sets of instructions here. Whoops, so how many did we get in total? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, in fact. They are the sequencing words in the instructions. Cool. Let's recap what we learned today. So what did we learn? We learned that when we're giving instructions, we don't use a subject pronoun. We don't need to say you do this or you go home. We just say do your work or go home, or pass the salt and send the email. We learned that in the negative form, we use do not do this, or don't do that. And we learned that it's not really about formality, a little bit about being formal or informal. It's more about emphasis. So do not is stronger than don't. Okay, so if you hear a parent talking to a child and the parent says, do not do this, obviously they are, well, they're emphasizing it. They're making it very clear not to do that. Then we have do not go, don't use, and then the object upstairs or this pen. So do not go upstairs, or don't use this pen, or do not cross the road, or don't eat the cake, for example. Cool. All right. That was a bit of a shorter lesson than I anticipated. Cool. That's only 30 minutes. I thought it would go for longer, but that's okay. Right, now what I'll do is let's do a Q&A. If you have any questions, please pop them into the chat for me. Any questions at all? And I don't mind answering other questions on grammar that you're finding difficult, or even if you're taking one of the tests, I'm happy to answer some questions there. Or if you have any questions about E2 School and the different courses, please pop that into the chat as well. I'll also check the YouTube live link if you have any questions as well. Otherwise, can we use these sentences during the speaking part in Ielts? No. No, because usually you're telling somebody to do something, right? You're giving an instruction. So in Ielts speaking, you don't give instructions. You receive instructions from the speaking examiner. The speaking examiner will say, please begin speaking, for example. That's an instruction. So you will hear some instructions, but no, you won't be giving any instructions. Ali Adam, how is the grammar in the PTE exam? Okay, so the grammar is scored in the right essay. Well, there's two parts. Grammar is scored in writing and speaking. Let's talk about writing first. So grammar is scored in the essay component. So when you're writing your essay, and all of those sentences and all of those phrases need to have correct grammar. In summarized written text, when you write your single sentence, that also is scored on grammar. In speaking, grammar is not scored separately. It's actually scored within content. So the computer is very smart. The computer has a big list of all the different grammatical structures. And when you're speaking about the image, for example, describing the image or retelling the lecture, it will cross-check your sentences with other sentences to see if they're grammatical. So it's important. It's very important. But I would say that in the Ielts, it's probably stricter, more strict than the PTE. May, what material should I use to practice my self-correction skills? May, the best thing to do there is to get feedback. So, for example, if you're taking an IELTS test and you're struggling with IELTS writing, the best thing, it's hard to know what your errors are yourself. So what you need to do is you need to submit your writing to an expert. That's what we do at E2 Language, by the way. We do a lot of writing feedback. We identify your errors, point out what you're doing wrong. Then what you can do, especially if it's grammar-related issues or even pronunciation for speaking, you can then use E2 School to fix your errors. But in terms of self-correction, there are certain common errors, like plural nouns, putting the S on nouns, so phone versus phones, stuff like that, verb tenses. But yes, it's best to get feedback. Sohail, I want to get 79 in the PT. I'm very weak, but I am very mature. Kindly guide me. How will I start? Sohail, if you've taken this test before and you got a low score, I would spend some time on E2 School improving your fundamental skills, because it doesn't matter how much test prep you do. It doesn't matter how much you understand the methods for the PT, for example. If your grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation are low or weak, as you say, then you will not be able to get a high score. You just can't. So you need to improve your fundamental skills. And so that's what E2 School is for. So please spend more time on E2 School. Sumaira, explain some cohesive words that are used in task 2 and how to use them according to sentence type. Well, cohesion, when you write your essay, is not necessarily specific words that you use. What it is how well your sentences flow from one to the next. So it's not using words like the sequence. A little bit of sequence word is fine, like next, therefore, as a result, after all, for example. They help, but only use them a little bit. It's more about the flow or connection of your ideas. Okay, so a sentence is an idea. How well do your ideas connect? How well do your sentences connect? So please think about cohesion as connections between ideas. That's a better way to think about it, not individual words. Cool. Kanika, during the listening test, is it really necessary to add articles and capital letters? I'm guessing you're talking about Ielts listening. It depends, Kanika. You need to be very careful when you're looking at when you're doing the Ielts listening test. Okay. Let's think about plural nouns. Okay. So let's say you're doing a listening test and it says something about the answer is phones. Again, we're just talking about phones, right? So not one phone, but two phones. If you write phone with no S, it will be marked as incorrect. So you need to write phones with the S. So plural nouns are critical. Articles, I don't see many questions that require the use of an article. Usually the article will be, if it's a gap fill, for example, fill in the blanks, listening fill in the blanks, the article will already be included. Plural nouns is a big one. Capital letters, yeah, just think if it's the name, if you're using a name, like the name of a city, name of a person, name of a company, then it will use a capital letter. It's about as good as I can give there. Ali, in the PTE, how many accents does the computer know? And which is the best accent? Okay, so the PTE algorithm, the computer, the machine that scores your speaking actually has, I don't know about hundreds, but it's got over 100, it's been programmed with over 100 different accents, okay? So there's no single accent that is best. Of course, in saying that, you need to speak clearly. So if you have particular sound issues, for example, if the difference between p and b is not clear, then the computer will mark you down. So your accent doesn't matter, but you do need to still be clear. So as long as your accent is clear, okay? As long as you're saying the sounds accurately. That's the best way to do that. Artie Taylor, I want feedback on my writing. Fine, go to e2language.com if you're taking a test and sign up to one of our paid packages and you can submit your writing for feedback. After that, you get your feedback. You can take a tutorial one-on-one with a teacher, expert teacher, who will help you with your writing. That's the best thing you can do. May, in PT speaking, how can I learn vocabulary and grammar to speak fluently? Well, if you want to build your vocab and grammar, go to E2 School. If you want to practice PTE, go to E2 Language. Ali, I've answered yours. Ripan, which package would you suggest for scoring 79 in PT? I scored 7.5 in Ielts, 6.5 in writing. Now I want to try PT. Please suggest a suitable package with feedback. You're pretty close there, Ripan, so maybe a silver package would be good. Alexander, hello. Cool. I think I've answered everyone's question. Let me check YouTube Live. Oh, good. Cool. Thanks for coming along. I didn't think it'd be that quick. So next time I'll make a longer lesson. So please, if you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button. And if you're watching this in Zoom, please make sure you register for the next Words and Rules live class, the next Grammar Review live class, and also the Test Ready classes. And tomorrow we will put on begin into the calendar, we will put the Speaking Lab pronunciation live classes. So please, they're all free, so come along to as many live classes as you want. Feel free to continue giving us feedback on E2 School. And yeah, that's all. Hope that was helpful. Thanks very much. I enjoyed teaching that. I'll see you guys soon.